LinkedIn. Once you're up and running, I'm going to drop.
Great. There's a couple of things I'm going to go ahead and go through here. Not everyone's going to show up in. Most of the folks are going to have clicked in. They're going to be in the background, and they'll be able to ask questions, and we'll see those questions and comments. But I'm going to go through this conversation about Cyversity first and just flip through that, and that's what I normally do. But first of all, thanks, Liz, for coming. Appreciate your time on a Saturday. It's so great to see you. So great to interview you and talk with you. Appreciate you coming. This is a Cyversity's Engage Impact interview series. One of the things that's good about it is I get to interview people that have impact in the industry, just like yourself. So it's really, really great. I get a real good vibe, and I learn a lot. And it's a good networking tool for all the individuals that join. So this is Cyversity, and this is our mission. And our mission is really worked around, since its inception and formalization, just focused on the consistent representation of women and untraditional, non-represented minorities and veterans. So those individuals, and that's the vast majority of the population. Folks like you and I, we're far and few between. And our whole purpose here at Cyversity is to advocate and increase that amount of individuals in cybersecurity. The term Cyversity is a play on words. It's where cybersecurity meets diversity at that crossroads, at that intersection. And so it's really, really been a great tool for us to engage and work with people. Of course, Cyversity is a membership organization. For those who are here and in the background and can see, if you can see this and you're not a member, you should scan this QR code. And then you'll get a whole bunch of information about Cyversity, and you'll learn a lot about Cyversity. It's a membership organization, so everyone invests a little money annually to help support their development and growth in cybersecurity, which is something that Cyversity focuses very deeply on. Before that membership, just like any other membership, there has to be some benefits. For Cyversity, right, we have resources, and some of those resources are chapters and mentorship and scholarships. The good thing about Cyversity's chapters is we've got double-digit chapters across the country, and those chapters are based locally. It gives you an opportunity to network with practitioners in your area, security executives in your area, and chapter members in your area. So it gives you an opportunity to really grow in your local community and then grow globally, nationally and globally with Cyversity as we grow. Of course, there's mentorships, and Liz here is a mentor, right? She's a mentor. She'll be talking about that later in some degree, but mentorship is where you get an opportunity to get one-on-one with an executive like Liz. Our program usually runs 16 weeks, and it really gives you an opportunity to really learn from someone in the industry that has got some real tenure there. On top of that, the mentors that I've had over the years, I still talk to them. I just talked to one yesterday and another one 2 days ago, and we were talking not only about technology, but about life. So mentoring it's a grand scheme of things. Of course, with scholarships that Cyversity offers, sometimes it's cash that goes to your educational endeavors, but it's also opportunities to get training by some of our partners, some of which are Google, Intuit, Fortinet, and others. So security innovation and others that I haven't mentioned. But those are some of our resources. Our additional resources are events, on-demand training, and networking. And what you'll hear from folks like Liz and other executives is that networking piece is critical. It's huge, right? To build, a friend of mine or a mentor of mine once said, your network is your net worth. So if you build your network of real talented folks who can speak for you when you're not in the room, which is really a critical piece of developing your career, that's what networking is about. Of course, there's the on-demand training, which helps you develop, which is developed through our partnerships, right? Partnerships that actually help us grow our aperture, grow our intellectual capabilities, and of course the events. One of the events is coming up right in October. Right? October is our national conference National Annual Power Up Conference down in Orlando. Right, it's going to be from the 29th to the 31st, and Liz, right, is going to be speaking. So I'm really happy to have you here, Liz, and to talk about and to get involved with you. Some of our topics that we focus on are career development, career spotlighting, transitioning, leadership, and tech talks. I'm going through this fast because I'm trying to get to you.
No worries. It's all good information. Go for it.
And of course, monthly we have different types of events that go on. You can see that February, March, and May, and June where diversity highlights. This September is Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month, and we're happy to have a Latina here to speak to that. And you can see in October, cybersecurity awareness, November, Native American heritage and military veterans, and December is disability awareness. Here are the ground rules. Well, it's going to be 45 minutes. Other things don't apply because you can't jump in unless we let you in. But, muting yourself in the background also helps for you. Look, that came up wrong. It didn't come up great. But this is Liz, but you can see her here, so we don't have to go through that. Next month, we're going to have Daniel Conroy. He's scheduled to come on October 28th. He's the Digital Chief Technology Officer for Raytheon. And after that, in November, it's our incoming chairwoman, right? Incoming chairwoman, Sharon Burgess. She's the incoming chairwoman, and she's also the Senior Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer for BDC, which is budget. So, hey, great to have an opportunity last two things. One, Impact interview series is moving to Thursdays in 2024. We'll be on Thursdays by around 12 o'clock. And our first interview is going to be this. Matt's going to have to take care of that because that didn't show up great. But our first interview is with our incoming president, right? MK Powellmore. He'll be the new president in 2024. So I'm going to stop presenting here. I think that's how I do it. I don't know how I do it, but I'm going to stop presenting here. Let me go there, exit slides. Matt, you can come on and do this for me if you like. Or do I do it there? Edit and remove from audio. Goodbye. Sometimes I can be clumsy, but this is perfect. Liz,
this is a learning opportunity, David. There's no such thing as mistakes.
I love that.
Learning opportunities. That's all.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love it, Liz. Really, I appreciate that too. So everyone, Liz, I was going to say her middle name, her maiden name is Liz Torres Augusto. We're going to talk about that Torres piece in a few too, but
I have to do that. My father would not be happy if I didn't do that. So got to do it.
I'm going to give you just a brief overview of Liz. She is the Chief Operating Officer for Bank of New York Mellon. She operates their global cybersecurity, information security division. It's a huge business unit inside of a huge behemoth. Liz is there to help structure and build that whole information security division, and we're going to talk about that in a shortly. But what I wanted to do, Liz, is I know we all come from somewhere,
yes,
but not originally where we are. But originally and historically, we are not from where we are today. I'm from Brownsville. I live in Austin, Texas. We're New Yorkers, and so I wanted to just take a couple of minutes and just give everyone some backdrop about Liz, who Liz is, where she's from, and really hit on that Torres piece, because that's really pivotal too, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. So Liz Augusto here. I go by Liz. Torres is obviously my maiden name. So I wanted the fact that you added my maiden actually for me, I thought that was sort of a sign from my dad saying, don't forget where you come from. Grew up in Queens, definitely a New Yorker. My parents are of Puerto Rican descent. I consider myself a very, very proud Latina, always. My life journey has been sort of this amazing sort of, I don't even call it a climb to the top or climbing the ladder. It's kind of a jungle gym of sorts, right? Because I've made decisions in my career that, have enabled me to just leverage all of these different life experiences, right? So I've had, I've worked at multiple banks, Lehman Brothers and Barclays, and I've worked for marketing and client service. I've done all these different things. And I feel that as if all of these experiences have enabled me to sort of get to where I am today, right? I've leveraged all of the learnings over the course of my career, my upbringing, my culture, all the lessons that I've learned from my parents. Very resilient, right? Just, whatever you do, you have to put your brand on it, right? People need to know that you were there, right? How do you make your mark? So I sort of lived my life in that way. And I have to tell you, I've leveraged all of those learnings throughout, my entire career to sort of do what I do today, right? And so one of the biggest things I will say is I leveraged all of that, culture, everything, to grow and scale the cybersecurity division at BNY Mellon from about 18 employees to over 600 or so globally. It's one of my proudest accomplishments to this day. And basically, when I think about it, today I stand as proof that if you put in the work, and you go into whatever you're going to do and be your most authentic self, bring who you are into everything that you do. I think that if you take a chance on yourself, that you can achieve anything you want to achieve, right? So I'm in sort of a combination and like a coat of many colors, if you will. And I just keep leveraging all of that, mistakes and all, to just continue to grow.
A lot of comments coming in. That authentic self piece is really big. Hearing you say that, and when we've talked in the past, you really focused on the fact that being your authentic self really helped you get to where you are. In being your authentic self, does that affect the experience that you have or experience that you had in your career development?
I think it's who I am. I bring all of me into every experience, right? So anybody who knows me knows I am who I am, right? My culture and my family and my upbringing and all of these things that make me is always going to be a part of everything I do. So it's important to me to be my authentic self. Early in my career, I have to tell you quite honestly that I didn't do that, right? Early in my career, I tried to assimilate, and I would watch different behaviors or how someone spoke or how they expressed themselves and how they did things. And I try to sort of do the same, but I learned it wasn't really getting me anywhere. And I had someone in my career that I worked very closely with. I partnered at Lehman Brothers. And she taught me just be who you are. I want to see Liz, you have all this energy and when we're talking and this passion and how you do things, I want to see that. I don't, I'm seeing this other thing, right? This is not who you are. And so I started to really think about that. And that's where I feel like it's like passion meeting purpose, right? You're your most authentic self. And so whatever you do, you kind of put that spin on it, that whatever that is, I don't know what it's called. Sure. You bring it into everything you do. And it's that I think is a huge differentiator. Sure. And that's why I think diversity is so critical.
Sure. Talk about your dad a little bit. Talk about Mr. Torres there and how Mr. Torres really affected you and your sisters and that whole upbringing that dad played a pivotal part in.
Yes. So my father, my family, right, has always played a big role in my life, always as my source of, support and inspiration. Some of the biggest lessons I learned from my dad, from my mom, was just, stay humble, right? Keep learning, always share everything you learn. And when I'm one of 6 girls, so I have to tell you, you don't have an option. You always have to share whether you like it or not. So I'm really good at the sharing part. But my dad, always, just be intentional with what you do. Your sisters are watching, right? Making a path for others coming behind you is so important. Make sure that you trust yourself. Go the extra mile. We all know there's not a lot of traffic on the extra mile, right? So go the extra mile, but stay true to who you are. It means sort of taking chances on yourself, trusting yourself, being strong, being resilient. There are going to be things in your life that are going to try to knock you down, and that's okay, right? The most important thing is that you get up and that you're resilient and that you just come back and you learn from all of those things. So for me, it's about one of the biggest lessons, just being fearless. And being fearless doesn't mean, or having courage doesn't mean that you're not afraid. It means that you're afraid and you do fear the unknown, but you do it anyway. And I think that's such an important lesson, because so many dreams are crushed because people are afraid or listen to these voices, this external, whatever it is, that's telling you that you can't do it because no one's done it, or because you're not the likely choice, or you don't see a lot of people that look like you doing that. So how could you be successful? And so my father was never, one to, I don't know, do what others said or care what other people thought. He's just like, focus, do what you got to do. Don't worry about others. And I had a nice balance, because growing up, my father was the disciplinarian. My mother was more of an empathetic, community builder, and where my father was really strong and just focus. You're going to do this. You got to have a plan. How are you going to get there? Just, always be on time, do these things. And if you give a word, you have to do it. Mm-hmm. All of these things, I didn't realize it growing up because I heard it so much. It became sort of like who you were. But those were all character builders, right? In my life, it just taught me so many lessons. And always, like, you do this and you accomplish this, what's next? You have to know what's next. You have to always do things with the idea that, people are watching. There are people in this world that don't have role models, a lot. You'd be surprised how many people don't have that. And so if you can open the door for someone or help that person by raising awareness or giving them information about something that you did, you read a book that helped you, like, share it with other people. Mm-hmm. That's important. Another thing I like to talk about also is, especially in the Latino community, right? In anything you do, confidence is important, mm-hmm. but don't confuse confidence with ego. Big difference, right? So confidence is, confidence leads to success. Ego is self-sabotage, right? Because ego is thinking, everything and you know it all. And, and people can tell when you don't, right? Confidence is understanding that you don't have all the answers, that you don't know. And sometimes you have to be vulnerable to accept the fact that you don't know, but you're willing to ask for help, right? And that's important. That's like so important. So, just think about that. You're not always going to have the answers, but understand the difference between confidence and ego. Sure. And just, if you know that, you can definitely go pretty far with that alone.
I agree with you on those points. Those are very critical. We're going to find out what books you read later. You're going to tell me a little bit.
A lot.
Right. There's another question I wanted to ask you, because about folks like yourself that I've had an opportunity to interview or even just talk to. They always have a why. Mm. They've got a mission and a why. Their why personal statement. We were talking about this dogma that's on our LinkedIn, our dogma and what we say, who we are, and how we present ourselves. But I wanted to ask you if you could just give us some background about your self-motivating, ingrained why statement, your personal why statement.
I love this question so much. I really do. So thank you, David, for this question, because I think it's important, right? It makes me think about this quote from this author, Gary Zukav. He wrote the book, Seat of the Soul. And he says, the quote says, creating authentic power means aligning your personality with your soul. So when your personality is aligned with your soul, you are authentically powerful. And that is so deep, because when I read, I was like, wow, that's why it resonates so much with me, because of course my family, my love for them is the driving force in every area of my life, right? But it started to make me think about, like, I am my most fulfilled when I am giving back in some way. When I'm sharing, when I'm connecting with people, like, that's my happy place. And that sort of work is so gratifying. I'm so filled with gratitude when I think about my upbringing, having the opportunity to grow up with all these sisters and a really close family. I mean, I feel like I've brought all of that. That's where we talk about the authenticity. And, Latinos, we're community builders. We're natural relationship, builders and networkers. We find community anywhere.
Sure.
I mean, I'll talk to a dead plant. I talk to everybody. I just love to talk to people. And for me, that's what makes me come alive. I'm so passionate about, helping and talking to people, opening opportunities, creating opportunities, driving awareness, learning and sharing with other people. I'm also a really spiritual person as well.
Very good.
So I'm really in tune with my internal guidance system, and I trust it so much, which is the reason why, I followed sort of my marching orders, right? When I was presented with the idea to join the organization of cybersecurity at BNY Mellon in cybersecurity. I trusted myself enough to know that I would do the work. I would put in the work to be successful. I didn't have a background in technology. We'll get into that later. But something in me told me that this would be an opportunity for me to serve in a really unique way, in a really impactful way. But I have to tell you, I never could have imagined how impactful it would be for myself and for others. But it's a decision that I'm so grateful I made, because for me, it's given me this platform to give back in the most incredible way. So it's sort of like, passion meeting purpose, right? So that it's amazing when you make that connection. I think that's what's important. Understand what that is for yourself.
Wow. So we've had a couple of questions and we had them in a list before we started this conversation. We're going to go down this list of questions, and we're going to give you opportunity to flow freely. What made you think you can do this? I mean, you're at a, what is it, Fortune 50?
Let's just say BNY Mellon is a pretty large organization, pretty significant in the market. Look it up. I mean,
super.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I have a very competitive nature, and also this sort of like crazy belief. I have to tell you, and again, I think really is my dad, because I have to give him the credit where credit's due. I have this crazy belief that there's nothing that I can't do. And when the odds are completely stacked against me, because in a lot of, my career and my journey across the board, not just at BNY Mellon, but other organizations, it's happened, right? It's this something inside me, I don't know what it is, that just says, I dare you to tell me that I can't do it, right? It's a bit delusional, but it's effective, stay with me for a minute. So when this opportunity presented itself to me 8 years ago, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I wasn't afraid. I mean, there were so many things in my head. I was like, what makes me think I could do this? But then I started to think about all the reasons why I would do well. I was thinking about all the things that I can apply, all of this experience I talked about earlier, right? Leveraging my experience from my former roles in different organizations, my foundation in risk, experience in marketing, client service, acting. I did a training, my acting training from back in the day. I did, and I also did this 1 year consultant experience working with a trend futurist. All of that got me here. And I have to tell you somehow it works, and you have to trust yourself. You really, really, really do. But if someone said to me 10 years ago, if you said to me, Liz, I think, you're going to be running the business of cybersecurity for one of the oldest and most globally significant organizations in the world, I would have thought you were crazy. But I did, and I do, and I continue to surprise myself. And that is what fuels my passion, right? To do, to want, and to be more. And so it's important to just know yourself.
We don't need the details. How are you structurally pulling together an organization inside of an organization that is as venerable and tenured as BNY? Because you're like building another company inside of a company. You've seen this before, But
Yeah.
how we just top level. We don't need to get down.
I mean, no, absolutely. I'll give you a very, very quick answer to that. Is the reason why BNY Mellon has been so successful and around for as long as they have is because they continue to be innovative. And that's what's important. This idea that you have to continue to reinvent yourself. You have to be the kind of person that you challenge the status quo. You're going to see opportunities and you're saying, this has been done a certain way. And with cybersecurity being so niche, you can't do the things that others do and think that, oh, it's going to work. No, you have to become sort of innovative. You have to think of different ways. If you even touch on one thing, which is recruiting cybersecurity talent, that is one of the most important things in a cybersecurity program, right? Finding the right talent with the right skill set and the right attitude and the right drive and the right growth mindset and learning ability and all that stuff. But you can't recruit for a cyber person the way that you would recruit an accountant. Cyber people are innately sort of suspicious, right? So, you sort of reach out to someone in cyber and you're like, hey, I want to talk to you about this great opportunity. And they're like, I need to authenticate this person. Who the hell's, what's going on? They're not trusting. So everything about how you attract the talent, to how you retain the talent, to how you sort of invest and create opportunities for that talent has to be innovative. And that's where my background and information and all of these different things that I've done helped me think outside of the box. You have to think outside the box.
Yeah, this whole landscape is pretty much littered with a lot of folks that have come through and have tried. And like we said earlier in the beginning of the conversation, the vast majority of our population globally are not cybersecurity practitioners. How do we create, first of all, we don't want to lower the bar, but how do we create the bar and pull more folks in so that they could become practitioners, even if they become just a human capital of practitioners that secure against the quote unquote bad actors?
I think it's confidence, it's representation. There's so many things. I think representation, we start with a couple of things. So let's start with representation, awareness, and confidence, right? So representation, you have to, if people start to see people like myself, not the most likely, when you think about a cybersecurity person, you don't probably think of someone that looks like me, right? So if people start to see people like myself out there, that I'm doing it, I'm finding opportunity, because opportunities are limitless, right? People start to see it, they get curious, they want to know more. How did she do it? What's she doing? What do I need to do? And then you get their attention. Now it's the awareness piece. So now you start, awareness is important. How do you get into a career of cybersecurity? The incredible work that's being done by Cyversity, just as an example, right? Because you guys are thinking about the magic formula. It's not just like, okay, you got diverse talent, so we're going to leverage that because that's unique in itself, where you have all this diverse talent with different backgrounds and cultures and thinking and perspectives. And we're going to develop them. We're going to give them these tools. We're going to give them the know-how, the skill set, and then all these soft skills that come with it. So it's representation, it's awareness. And then I think one of the biggest things I would say is confidence. Some people don't even take a chance because they stop at fear, right? So if you have that confidence to push forward, to move forward, to start something, confidence to start, or to go into a field that you think, oh, it's not for me, or how could I do this? Or I don't see a lot of people like me. Confidence to seek mentors, confidence to seek training, and just take it from there. Confidence that once you're in the door and you're growing and you're learning, confidence to ask questions, to seek mentors, to advocate for yourself when you're doing it. Don't just say, oh, because I got passed up for this opportunity, so I guess I'm not good. It's like, no. Maybe it's more, they don't even know that you're doing all these things because you're not talking about it to anyone. You're just quietly doing your work, and that doesn't work. That doesn't work. So you have to advocate. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Liz. I interrupted you. I apologize.
No. I'm not just saying you have to advocate for yourself. You are your biggest cheerleader. What are you saying to yourself? What kind of self-talk? Because that's huge. Sometimes, it's you're saying things about yourself, right, that are leading you to believe that you can't do something. So that's important.
But you have to shut that internal voice off. That's really not your
or change your narrative. You don't have to shut the voice, you have to change the narrative, right? Because you have to go from, I can't do that to, oh, that's interesting. I would love to do that. I have a mentor of mine who taught me, it's passionate curiosity, right? Approach all these things with this passionate curiosity, and you're gonna see how things all, your mind all of a sudden makes that shift to, oh, okay, I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna see what that's like.
I hear you. Liz, your experiences as a non-practitioner, quote unquote non-practitioner, you're very much a practitioner these days. But as your experience, has it been as a result of, in spite of, because of, what's it been like? How did, I know I asked this question before, but I'm trying to step in a little bit deeper, because sometimes we do what we do just because of that person. I'm gonna get it, or because my dad, or because of the experiences. What were your experiences like, and how did it help you get to where you are?
How did my experience help me get to where I am?
Where you are now? Because we talked about, you have to, when you're in your position, you have to create a great experience for folks. You have to create that experience for them when they're coming into the environment, so that they get a good experience, they do understand the experience, and then they do have an opportunity to like what they're doing because of the experience that you provided them as an executive.
Right. I think, there is this, and I go back to my dad, because it's you. Oftentimes you hear people say, oh, they didn't give me the opportunity. They didn't make a way for me. They don't see me. They didn't give me a raise. They, right? Mm-hmm. What are you doing personally to build value? Right? What are you doing personally to build that value, where, and to put yourself out there, right? To sort of be seen and heard and all of that other stuff. It's your responsibility to get yourself there. Right. So you have to sort of work harder on yourself than you even do on your job. You have to keep learning, keep growing, seek mentorship. There's, the internet is such a big place, right? You can learn to do anything you want to learn to do, anything. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of perspective. There's podcasts, there's webinars, there's all this stuff. It's like, so there's so many things out there, but very few people will actually go there and take the necessary steps to do the work. Right. And so if you don't create those opportunities for yourself, those learning opportunities, networking with people, take a chance. Sometimes I don't know someone and I read an article and I'm like, oh my God, that article like really touched me. I'm going to reach out to that person on LinkedIn and make a connection. I was actually doing a panel, when was it, Thursday, with Cyber Warrior. And someone actually sent me a LinkedIn message the day before that they weren't going to be able to attend because they had to work, but that they wanted to link in with me so that we can stay connected and she can go to future events. And I actually reached out to her and I said, you know what, send me your email. I want to talk to you.
Sure.
Right. So I think it's like, you take responsibility for your career, your successes. You have to do the work.
Sure. I wanted to ask a question about advocacy, because we know that we need to advocate we want to advocate for as many people as we can to get into cybersecurity. What's the best thing a person who's on the fence, we discussed being on the fence, what's the best thing a person who is on the fence can and should do to get off the fence? I know there's the authenticity of, I'm not going to stop you right there, so you smiling at it. But what's the best thing to jump off that fence and get at it and get to it?
I would say, this, right? I mean, attend seminars and learn about different opportunities. Just, you may not be a technical person and you can have an incredible career in cybersecurity. You could be a program manager. You could be great at marketing. You could be great at, different things. Maybe you want to do risk. Maybe you want to do awareness. You're good at speaking to people and presenting and things that you want to do aware. There's so many things within the cybersecurity landscape. You want to be a cybersecurity lawyer. There's so many different things and so many specialties, and it's only growing. right? So I'd say figure out whatever that is about you that excites you, and then think, how do I translate it into an opportunity in this field, because it is such an incredible field to be in, and it's only growing with obviously the emergence of old AI and machine learning and all of that other stuff. So whatever you do, it's the digital world, period. Right? So do these kinds of things, like just seek information and go out there and ask questions and talk to people in the different networks and get out there.
Right.
It may or may not be for you. You know what I mean? But at least you have to immerse yourself a little bit to learn as much as you can about it. I think you owe yourself that.
Gotcha. Sorry, I had someone walk into the office for a second there.
No.
So you've got some passions, and one of them is mentoring. So
Yes.
I know that at least I understand that you're doing mentoring. You want to do more mentoring. Are you where you want to be in mentoring? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do in this whole field of mentoring? And how do you want to impact more people?
I mean, I think there's so many different ways to do it, right? So one is, I'm a member of, a number of different organizations. I recently became a board member with High Tech.
Yes.
I lend my voice to a lot of, different organizations. I'm affiliated with NYU Center for Cybersecurity, right? I have a hand in sort of like the curriculum for future cybersecurity professionals, with Year Up mentoring and creating opportunities for these students, who come from different backgrounds, right? And they may not have that opportunity to do the 4-year university just yet, but they're at a point in their lives where they want to do something, and so that provides them the opportunity. There's a lot of things. I mean, I want to do a lot. I have a ton of energy, as you can tell, I'm sure. So I love to give. I love to talk to people. Maybe doing podcasts one day and sharing some of my experiences, learning from other people by having them come talk to me. Or also I want to write a book, right? There's so many different things, right? So, and that's what I say to everybody. You don't have to be at a senior executive level to provide awareness and be a thought leader and give and share and mentor. You can start exactly where you are. You could be a student right now and you're at this event, you're listening to what I'm saying, and you can say, oh my God, let me share with someone who I know is looking to get into cybersecurity. I just heard this woman speak at here it is. I want you to hear it. You should reach out to her. She said this, she said that. Anybody can influence anything. Anybody can be inspiring at any level.
Sure.
Right.
We know today that we've got a lack of skills. Right? As much as we have a lack of human capital, it's the scarcity of both. And it seems to be that since we have that lack of skills, it feels like it's going to continue for quite some time, unless, of course, we change that whole sort of paradigm. This is a two-part question. What do you and I do personally? Because I've stopped saying, well, we got to do this, we got to do it. I'm like, I got to do it. That's it. I got to do it. Somebody else want to come knock yourself out. What do we have to do personally? And what do we have to do with our organizations, especially corporate organizations? At the end of the day, they're the economic developer. They're going to benefit at the end of the day from us developing these new next generation of talented cybersecurity practitioners. But how do we help them understand? How do we help them understand the need? Help them get through that process. I think some of it is an ROI conversation, by the way, right?
That's right. No, it gets there. Absolutely. That's good. So at the end, but no, I think there's so there's a saying, right? People don't care what you know until they know you care. And so everyone who knows me knows I'm passionate about this work. Diversity, equity, inclusion, it's not a nice to have, it's a business imperative. And I think it takes, for me, it's a mindset, quite frankly. So I make it a point to keep this in the forefront of all of my discussions with whomever I'm talking to. I always see it as an opportunity, right? To enlighten, to create awareness, to educate, right? I'm not upset when people don't get it or there's a level of ignorance in some respects, because not everybody grew up in, people grow up in different areas of the world and different experiences. So, I wouldn't use that. I would say, you know what? I am going to be a teacher, I'm going to, create awareness. I'm going to educate. I share my story with others. Oftentimes, you only hear, so it's funny because you only hear when people get to a certain level in their career, you only hear about the wins, whether it's a corporate leader, a famous athlete, or an artist, but you don't hear about the journey, what that journey was like to get there. Right? Because the real value is in the work and the grit, the challenges and all of that. How did you overcome it? And I think that part's important. It's often overlooked. So if you have a platform in your organization or in your place of influence, I say leverage that platform to educate people around you to understand that there's value, right, in what you do and what you bring to the table, and talk about it. Expose them to, if you're going to go to a conference, like, with High Tech, when I'm going to go to my conference at High Tech or what have you, or any other conferences, I invite colleagues of mine that aren't Hispanic, right? You know why? Because if you don't see it, you don't know it, right? But once you're around it, you're like, oh, wow, these incredible leaders here, they just happen to be Hispanic, right? So just the way to move the needle is just a little bit at a time.
Sure.
Not going to happen all at once. It's like compound interest, right? So if you're consistent, that's what gets you there. It's a little bit at a time.
You've obviously had some challenges in your growth and development. How do you take those challenges and describe them or describe them as lessons learned that you give to some of your mentees or folks that you work with? How do you take that? Because sometimes challenges sometimes they can be failures. But we know failure is a great teacher nonetheless. But how do you take those challenges and turn them into something of a lesson for the folks that you work with and teach?
I actually welcome failure and risk, obviously, as you can tell. So I encourage the people around me, especially my team, the people who work for me I encourage them to take risks. You have to take risks. And when you learn something or when you fall and you make a mistake, you have to stop and say, okay, what am I going to learn from this? What did I learn from this particular experience? Maybe I need to be more intentional. Maybe I need to be more prepared. Maybe I need to slow down. Maybe I need to, whatever that is, it's learning from that mistake, but not allowing that mistake to take you down and, tear down your confidence and think like it's over. It's fine. It's like, if you think about it, you're in a car and you have your GPS, your navigation, and sometimes it says, get close, you're about to make a right, or, whatever it is. And sometimes you don't listen carefully enough and you make that right a little too soon. It's not like the navigation system is going to be like, oh man, you screwed up now. Like, can't go anywhere. We're done. It's over. Trip is over. You're never going to get there. No, it says rerouting. Right. Wow. And that's kind of how you approach everything in life. It's like, you made a mistake. There's a reason why you made that mistake. It's life's way of kind of redirecting you and helping you. And that's it. There's no such thing as a bad mistake, or, you make mistakes, you learn from them, and you keep moving. That's it.
I'm going to read some questions from the group. I have a couple more questions, as you know, but I'm going to read some of the questions from the group. It's from Anna. Hey, Liz. Hi, Liz. Why are there not so many women in cybersecurity?
For the reasons I mentioned earlier in terms of confidence, right? I think when you think of a cybersecurity professional, you think of, men in the basement with a little hoodie and, hiding out coding and things like that. It doesn't seem to be as exciting a career, or, people think careers in STEM are sort of like not a female thing, but it's a complete opposite, right? And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, because I want you to know, I want everybody to know on this call that there are so many opportunities, and we need women. We need to think of, women are resilient. They just, put a woman on the job and it's going to get done. And it's going to get done. And it's not just going to get done. It's just going to get done the right way. And they're going to create like a way where there wasn't a way, or they're going to create things and making them better, not just do it for the sake of doing it. It's like, doing it in a way where it's impactful. And, so women they have incredible skills that you can leverage in security, that sense of intuition, that just knowing things before they happen kind of thing. There's a lot of incredible skill sets that women bring to the table that we need. And so reason why we're doing this, the reason why I'm here is to raise that awareness so that we can get more women interested. Once we get more women interested and we show them that there is a way, there's a path, then we will have. I'm hopeful. I'm a confident person, glass half full all the time. And I think that there's so much opportunity. I think, you know what, it starts with us.
Great. There's another question from a person, all in all. What opportunities do you know that are entry level? So this is a good question, and you know why? Because not everybody comes to this discipline or this practice at that level. Some people have, and we discussed this before, some people have a lot of experience, some people have some experience, and some people have no experience.
Right.
And so what do we do to help those with little to no experience? Because those that have some, they have some. What do we do to help? What do we do to help all three levels?
So I would say start where you are, right? And I think start with like understanding what are the things that you like to do, right? Some people are heavily analytical. Some people not so much. Understand. You have to understand where you're coming from and where you are and what you're like and what are the things that you like to do and things like this. You start there. One of the things I did that helped me, and I've actually leveraged this as a really good tool for recruiting and all the rest. But when I started in cybersecurity, when I say to you that I knew nothing about cybersecurity, like nada, right? I had incredible experience, as I mentioned, from the past and in financial services and risk and all this stuff, but I wasn't a technologist. So I had to learn. I had to teach myself. So the first thing I did when I joined BNY Mellon was I would get together with my leaders and I would say, you're the head of cyber operations. Explain to me what you do. You're the head of, whatever it is, next generation technology. What do you do specifically in security? You do X, Y, and Z. And how can I help you? How can I, what do I need to know? And so I created this like brochure of the cybersecurity program at BNY Mellon. So that when I went to conferences and summits and I would talk to potential, talent or, students and such who were interested in the area of cybersecurity, I can actually say, hey, what do you like to do? Oh, I love data. I love analytics. Okay. So you would be great in cyber analytics. This is why. And these are the skills that you're going to need to do it. So this brochure it's amazing. And I actually share it with a lot of people. And David, I think I shared it with you. I believe if I didn't, I will.
It's a cybersecurity. Yes, you did.
Yes. And so it kind of gives you a very good understanding of if you want a career, and selfishly at BNY Mellon is obviously this, if you want a career in cybersecurity, at BNY Mellon, this is how you do it. I always wanted to, when I go out there and I speak to people, I want BNY Mellon to be the organization that says, if you don't know this and you don't know how to get there, we're going to help you. We're going to help you understand, right? We're going to create that awareness for you. Not, you don't have the experience, you can't do the job, all of that. So understanding that, it's a way to sort of get a little bit of a dive or an understanding of what does cybersecurity look like in each of these services. And maybe I can learn that, and that. So David, I would love to share it, with you and you can take a look at it and it just kind of gives you a good understanding. So it's just learning about the different areas of Yes. So it'll help. It helps you, it guides you. It's a little bit of a guide.
What's interesting is that there is a need for more folks in cybersecurity, but we do have to address some of the elephant in the room, which is why would a practitioner, an executive like yourself, or the folks that you support, right, in their CIA endeavors, why would they take a chance with somebody that's going to, I don't want to say it any other way other than screw up my whole security plan and create a problem? What do people have to do? I know you say start where you are, but now that I'm starting where I am, how do I get aggressive to go to that next level? Is it all certifications? Is it learning what the heck you should know?
Yes. So I think, getting an understanding of, let's start with the basics, right? Learn what is cybersecurity, right? So what is cybersecurity? Understand what that means. And cybersecurity, it's a business problem. It's not a technology problem. It's a people risk, right? So yes, you need to have knowledge of emerging technology. So I would say stay updated on the latest advancements, right? And automation, understand AI, ML, understand what that means, right? Get some of the cybersecurity fundamentals, right? So build a strong foundation in areas as like, networking, networking security, cryptography, secure coding, incident response, so that you can, these are some of the areas that, for incident response as an example, to effectively address both the traditional and emerging threats. Like, you have to understand what the fundamentals are.
Sure.
It's not just a technical piece, it's collaboration and communication. Very key. Enhance your interpersonal skills, and that's going to help you in any career. But the ability for a cybersecurity professional to collaborate effectively across these different services, because when there is an incident or when there's something of cybersecurity, something happens, you have to be able to collaborate and partner with people, not just in the security space, right? You have to, it's communications, it's legal, it's risk team and all these different people in all these different areas. You have to be able to communicate effectively,
Sure.
right? Risk assess, like understand like risks. Just be passionately curious. There's a lot of material out there on all this stuff. And David, I could give you some, we can put some links later to some stuff that they should look at,
Sure.
What's in this framework, all of that stuff. So that you can educate yourself a little bit more on what it takes to, to be in a career in cyber.
The interesting thing is that there are 8 or 9 cybersecurity domains, and in each one of them, there's no less than 10 disciplines in each domain. So you got like 90 already that just starts out, and it gets even deeper than that. And what I've noticed is that, even though I've worked in this discipline with some real good technologists, I'm not a technologist. I'm a people person, and so. But I think that people are the most important part of this whole thing, because that's why we develop technology. So
that's right.
From that perspective, as a working as a people person, as you clearly are a people person, how are you continuing to empower them? Because there's a question here that the young lady asked about women being in cybersecurity, right? She asked, how do we just continue to just build them from the imposter syndrome so that they can step into that door? Because, like I said earlier, the landscape is littered with folks that have failed and not come back.
No, 100%. I mean, look, the training and the certifications and the degrees and all of that is wonderful and necessary, right? When you go into cybersecurity, don't think you're going to get a certification in this and if you choose to go the degree path or whatever you decide to do as your learning platform, it doesn't stop there, right? You have to continue to build value, right? So how do you build value? You just continue to invest in yourself, to learn more. And once you start to do that, right? Once you start to sort of build that package, if you will, you start to become more confident. Right. And you probably will go into an organization. You may be very successful and you may find networking and sponsorship and mentorship and all that. And that's great. Some people, maybe they're afraid to, and they don't want to. And the fear of like, oh my God, they're going to think I don't know what I'm talking about if I ask that question, or they're going to think if I ask for help, they're going to say, why do we hire her? She doesn't know what she's doing. You have to be confident and you have to take control of your learning. Right. Because it's, you could teach, the whole idea of imposter syndrome, trust me, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. I struggle with it sometimes. I'm not going to lie. For as long as I can remember, not just in cybersecurity, I've been in the financial industry for over 25 years. I'm aging myself now. But I've been the only in pretty much a lot of my situations. Right. But I think, again, that sort of idea of changing your mindset to, every time you walk in a room and you're the only, think about it as like, oh my God, I'm not walking in here by myself. I'm walking in here with all these incredible people that paved a way for me.
Sure.
I'm walking in here with my father, with my mother, with my sisters, with my aunts. My culture is all over me, right? And just walking in there, knowing that if you are the only, well, then you have a responsibility. Right? Instead of focusing on it, you can dwell on the fact that you're the only one, and you could be angry at the fact that, they still haven't gotten diversity right, or that, there's not opportunity there. If you don't have an opportunity where you are, sure, and you've done all the right things, then you need to understand your value, right? And make a decision. If respect is not being served where you are, get up from that table and go somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right? You build a value, then you can do whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. I'm going to take a question from the group. It's from Gregory. This is, even more in depth. How do you change? This goes back to our entry level conversation. How do you change the minds of industry people that have stringent requirements for entry level people, i.e., the degree, 10 years, certification, blah, 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 those things?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like Google doesn't have a lot of, like Google's just like, I think if you go to Google, they don't have all these like degree requirements and all stuff, but you have to keep learning. Again, it's the idea that there are opportunities out there. There are organizations out there that are willing to take a chance. And that's why, looking into Cyversity, thinking about like, organizations like, Cyber Warrior, Europe, and all these others, there's like emerging leader programs. There's so many programs out there. It's so much information that, again, if you think a little bit outside the box and you change your perspective from all they're gonna want is this, all they're gonna want is that, it's like, just start. Start. And then once you get started and you say, okay, I did this, what's next? Ask your network, talk to your mentor, find a mentor, right? Do your research. How can I start here? What companies are again, the internet, it is like the biggest library. Right?
Gold mine. I hear you.
Gold mine, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's a question from Dio. By the way, Dio always comes to us on this conference from Uganda at 11:30 at night.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Dio. I respect you and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Dio was asking the question, what key areas to work on while getting into cybersecurity, especially in leadership?
Oh, I like your thinking already, Dio. Loving you already. Thank you for that question. I think to be a good leader, you have to understand the responsibility of leadership, because leadership is not about, making the money and having the title and all. That's wonderful. You have to be the kind of person that is willing to invest in your people, that you're gonna, you have to model certain behavior, because when you get to a certain level, everyone's watching, right? It gets harder as you go up the ladder, but just sharing and investing your time to teach people and help them, right? Solve problems and things like that. So again, communication is key. Self-awareness. How are you coming across to the people that you're leading? All of those things are really critical. So key areas to work on when you're getting into cybersecurity, especially leadership, is work on yourself harder than you work on anything else. Read the books, leadership books. What do great leaders do? Right? It's working on yourself, making sure that you're present. Being present is the thing these days. It's hard because everyone's like, oh, someone just texted me. Oh my God, wait, there's a call. Oh, there's a show over there. There's this. There's so much distraction. Focus is a differentiator. It really, really is a differentiator. So focus.
Good. You mentioned reading books and exposing yourself to what others do and what others have said, especially if they're in support of you. What books have you read, or what books would you recommend for some of the folks that are here on our channel today?
So I mentioned earlier that I am
Seed of Soul. Excuse me, I wrote that down.
Seed of the Soul. You gotta read that book. So I always say that success is an inside job, right? So for me, it's about my mindset. So my mind has to think a certain way, right? I read books about, this is going to sound strange and hokey, but it works. The law of attraction is probably one of the, I really believe that it starts with your mindset. Like, the power of positive thinking. All of, what's the other one? Oh God, anything, Jim Rohn, anything. He's like amazing. The emotional intelligence. I think it's emotional intelligence 2.0. Read that, because emotional intelligence is everything. How you present yourself. You have to be aware of who you are, where you are, right? Understanding that, every situation is going to be different, and how you present yourself, at that moment is really, really important. How you come across to people and things like that. There's so many. The speed of trust. I mean, I could be here all day. I could give you an entire list, but I'm saying like work on yourself.
Yes.
Right? It's work on yourself. I think it was, I wanted to mention one thing when you asked me the question earlier about imposter syndrome, right? I'm going to go back to something my dad would say, like, what other people think about you is none of your business.
Wow.
None of your business.
Wow.
Right? So the most destructive thing that you can ever do for yourself is to believe somebody else's opinion of you. So don't allow any of that to control you. And that's hard, right? And that's why the centeredness and having a mindset, and focus on what you're doing and not looking back to ask people how you're doing. Don't concern yourself with that, right? And I think it was Jim Carrey who said, that your need for acceptance will make you invisible, right? For me, I think that's deep, right? So go ahead, risk being seen, just do what you do. Like just live in your purpose, do what makes you happy, live your passion, and not worried about what everybody else is saying or talking about you. It doesn't, none of your business.
I love that. I probably need that in some sense. I probably need that in some sense. But, I really appreciate what you've said today, Liz. You're going to be speaking at Cyversity's Power Up Conference, October 29th and to the 31st. Are you okay giving us a glimpse of what you're going to say, or have we already gotten some of it?
Oh, I'm it's done already. So I think I want to talk to people about. I want to take the attendees through my journey into cybersecurity. I want to talk about how my lack of, the conventional experience in the field was actually my greatest strength, because it was, right? I thought differently. I thought outside the box. It was just different. And how I leveraged all these experiences from my career, but most importantly from my childhood, from my culture, and how I used all of those pieces, right? All of those experiences. I used all of that to create impact and change. And my hope is that, my story will hopefully inspire people to think about their own contributions and your gifts, because they're your gifts. Nobody has what you have, right? That's why everybody's fingerprint is unique. No one has the same fingerprint, right? So think about, who you are, what you're, how people will create the kind of value, right? I always think about this, and I don't remember where I read it, but I read somewhere where they said, do you light a room when you walk in it or when you exit? Do people light up when you walk in a room or when you exit? Right. So I really think about that as part of right. Isn't that deep?
My auntie from the islands has one too. She said, some people happy see you come, happy see you go now, which is
that's right. I love that. So I'm hoping that, I'm taking you through my journey, and I it's something I'm really I'm just really passionate about, and I think it needs to be said, and I'm not embarrassed about it. I don't ever feel like I didn't come in as a technologist. That wasn't my purpose.
Yep. I think that's so.
So knowing who you are.
Yeah. I think that's incredibly critical. Your authentic self, being your authentic self. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff.
Yes.
Live your why, your particular why, your specific why. And you may not have to know a digit or widget and all that stuff, but you know what you want to do in the end. I know we've got just a couple of minutes left, but I wanted to see if there's any more questions. But I also wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of address the group here. A lot of the folks here are either in or developing in or growing in or coming into technology.
You're cutting out. I'm sorry.
I am?
Sorry, you cut out.
Am I back?
Yeah, now I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I wanted to give you an opportunity to have a parting statement with the folks here, keeping in mind that some are just going through their entry level. Some of them are still in their very early junior level, and some are farther along the way, as it were. And so, can you touch all three of them in some parting statements, if you will?
Absolutely. So I already used what other people think about you is none of your business. So that's a big one, and it's an important one. And I will say this again: the part of learning to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because if you work hard on your job, you make a living, right? You can make a living. But if you work on yourself, right? If you work really hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune. Learn to create that value so that if a situation isn't good for you and doesn't make you feel good, that you've built that currency that you can just get up and go wherever you want to go, because you understand internally who you are. You know what your worth is. Think of it like this, almost like when you go buy a vehicle and you can just get just the regular car, or you can start adding all those features like the nice rims and the wood trim and all that stuff, right? And what happens to the price every time you add a little something, right? You got a little nav system in there. What happens? The price goes up. Think of yourself in the same way, right?
Right.
The more features, the more value.
I love that.
I'll leave it there.
Look, you broke some ceilings here, especially at Lehman's and Barclays. Now you're at BNY. What's the next ceiling? Where are we going? What's up?
There's too many. There's too many things. I don't know. I'm just gonna continue to do my work, right? Which is just this. This is my work.
Good.
And I just see so many things. I mean, it's sky's the limit. I'm just gonna say that. Sky's the limit.
Hey, Liz, it's been great.
Thank you. Thank you, David, for having me. And thank you for all the incredible comments. I'm looking at names. Marilyn Allison, thanks for the love. Marilyn Harris. I saw Jonathan Tran. I feel like back in the 70s. I see Danielle and I see Paul and I see. Thanks for the love and your comments. Amazing. Amazing. And, look me up on LinkedIn and connect.
Please do. Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming. And,
thank you.
Don't forget next month, Daniel Conroy, the digital chief technology officer from Raytheon. It's going to be an interesting conversation as well. It may be more technical than this one, but guess what? We got with Liz. We got.
I can see him. Listen, he can do his thing. I'll be watching. That's it. All right.
Thanks very much, and you have a great time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.